So, Rue, it's episode 1. I think we should do something a little bit special for our new audience.
Liking it, good idea.
Yeah, I found something. You ready?
Am I? What the fuck is that? Hi guys, and welcome to the first ever proper episode of the Let's Watch Horror podcast. This is episode number 1.
We finally did it.
We got there, just
We're
about.
here, gang!
And we just watched the classic horror that is House of a Thousand Corpses, the 2003 film by Rob Zombie. There were two kind of main reasons why we chose to do this one first. I'd say number 1, we all love it.
So much.
Yeah. Some of us more than others. I
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
definitely, but we all definitely love it. It has a very special place in our hearts. Oh.
And a very nasty, twisted place.
It's a
but
very-
a special one nonetheless.
Very heartwarming movie
It
for all
is,
of us.
yes. It's one of those sweet.
Yeah, no, it definitely gets to a very special place inside me.
And reason number 2, we've sort of were discussing this the other week when we were kind of going over our favourite horror films, and this one keeps coming up as what I would describe is the film that horror fans test each other with. I don't know if you guys have ever had this before.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you meet someone new and you realise you both like horror, and one of you is eventually going to bring up this movie and see whether the other person knows it, if they know it, whether they like it. And it just seems to be the one that people throw at each other, as in, like, who are you? You know, what does horror mean to you?
Exactly what type of horror are you into, and how much
Exactly.
of a fan of it are you?
Yeah, so I thought it would make the perfect first ever episode, because we're, like, basically testing you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't mean that, obviously. So, yeah, Rob, I guess to start off with, bit of a synopsis. Do you want to give us a back-of-the-box preview?
I will do my very best. It's a long one, longer than longer than usually have on Blu-rays, but I'll do my best.
You better
Good
do
luck.
good, boy.
Okay. Don't laugh at me if I mess up.
We will.
I'm already messing up. On All Hallows Eve, 1990. Okay, I'm going to go. On All Hallows Eve, 1977, two young couples and a thrill-seeking ride into the unknown stumble across the Museum of Monsters and Madmen, presided over by one Captain Spaulding, a crazed carny, if there ever was one. This unique attraction is housed out back of the only filling station for miles around. After a brief stay at the museum, the couples hit the road again, picking up a hitchhiking woman named Baby. Along the way, it isn't long before they run into engine trouble and are forced to take refuge in Baby's family home. But what they find waiting for them is a hell on earth, more terrifying than anything that they could ever have imagined. The twisted slice of blood-soaked cinema from cult director Rob Zombie harks back to a golden age when horror really meant horror, and the guarantee of cinematic shocks was more than a threat than a promise. Dare you enter the House of a Thousand Corpses?
Nicely done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no, you
Very
did that with
nicely done.
finesse.
It's perfect film to do on Halloween as well.
Definitely.
Really perfect film to do on Halloween.
Yeah, man, it fits the vibe perfectly. I think it's almost designed for yearly Halloween watchings, if you feel so inclined, which I definitely do.
Of course.
Yeah, clearly.
It's got to be done.
Obviously. It's like ritual.
So the back of the box there kind of covered, in a way, the first few scenes, didn't it?
Yeah.
I made a note of this, especially that Captain Spaulding is the one that welcomes us to this film with open arms.
We got to talk about what he does on the DVD as well.
Yeah, we really
Yes.
do. So if you leave the DVD menu...
No, there was a bit where Ruby pressed, like, it was like this bell that you could click on. I don't think you saw it.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you did? I just thought that you just clicked a random button and he just appeared.
Yeah, if you select off of the menu, and you can kind of select a button which is the bell, and it rings the bell, and the character of Captain Spaulding comes through, and looks straight into the camera, straight into you, the audience at home, and goes off on a really quite a hilarious diatribe about why the hell are you city slickers coming here and wasting my time, and he sits there and he munches a donut
with your sassy haircuts.
And he whips out a nudie magazine and starts going through all the pictures. Oh, it was before we'd even watched the film, it had me in good spirits, because it was about as like that. Those kinds of little DVD extras are always a nice little treat.
Definitely.
And I mean, especially, I think they know that Spaulding is the best character in this film.
You're going straight for that, are you?
I 110%.
Let's have that conversation then.
Spaulding is by far the best thing about this film. I think he just his whole character is a perfect mixture of, you know, he's properly hilarious, but he's also sleazy and grimy and a bit terrifying at the same time.
The term I came up with in those first couple of scenes where he is the one sort of leading us through it in the beginning was disconcertingly charming.
Yeah, exactly.
That was the only way I could sort of think to describe it. Like, you're finding him charming even though you really shouldn't be. And then,
but the moments where you get a glimpse of like what a monster he is, you really.
I wrote that in my notes in the bit where he talks to Dwight.
No, we're just going to call him Dwight.
Okay, so the guy who plays Dwight in the American Office.
That would be Rainn Wilson.
Yep, his name's Bill in this.
For the sake of some respect.
Yeah, as soon as if any of you watch this film and you haven't seen him in it before, you'll just instantly go Dwight. Like, I wrote on my notes in capitals Dwight, and I think you guys did too.
Yeah.
Just to go back to what he says before we press play. Want to know my favourite quote from what he said?
Yes.
He says, I'm going to try and do it in his voice because in an English accent it will sound really bad. I'll do it in both actually. So in his voice, he went, "Kiss a dog's titties." And in my voice, he went, "Kiss a dog's titties." And he also told us all to get a life because we've got to the very end of it, which is about 5 minutes.
That was so good.
Pretty brilliant.
It was.
Well, yeah, I mean, everything he says is a quote, really, isn't it?
Pretty much.
That I can remember.
Yeah, completely.
Even down to his t-shirts. It's all lovely little quotes that are very memorable.
Yeah, like what was the one which so memorable. I can't remember.
If I wanted to hear assholes speak, I'd fart.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And a pigs are beautiful.
Pigs is beautiful.
Yeah.
Pigs is beautiful.
Yeah, personal favourite of mine.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I think you're definitely right. He is literally the face. He's the face on the front of the DVD. He is the face of the movie, which is strange when you think about it, because actually he doesn't do... I mean, he does, but he's not present on screen for an awful lot.
He opens it and closes it for you.
He doesn't.
That's a
He
big
doesn't
role.
really advance the plot much. You know what I mean? He is quite literally the face of the attraction that leads you in. All of the carnage that happens therein is all led by the other the members of the family. But he's definitely the icon for a very good reason. I've got to give it to Bosley. What was his name? What's the name of the actor?
Which one? Sorry.
The guy who plays Spaulding. I forgot.
Spaulding. Oh, Sid Haig.
Sid Haig, brilliant. Like properly brilliant. I know he's a bit
so good.
Yeah, I know he's a veteran of a bunch of old school 70s exploitation.
Which
films.
we'll get to.
Yeah. Which are clearly why Rob Zombie picked
chosen.
him.
Saying that he is the face of the cover. He's actually part of the reason I hadn't watched this film for so many years. Because when video and DVD shops were open, I'd go to the horror section and look at all of the covers, and I'd always pick, like ones like The Exorcist, or kind of like arty ones, or ones with like just a black cover and all that kind of stuff. But this cover has got a load of crap going on it. It's got a crazy clown's face on the front, and it says "A House of a Thousand Corpses." I didn't know who Rob Zombie was at this time, so when I would always see this and go, looks stupid. It reminds me of like Camp Blood kind of thing, and then when we eventually watched it, I felt like an idiot for all those years. But
Are you meaning to tell me you judged a book by its cover?
I did.
Rather literally.
Yeah.
How embarrassing for you.
I know.
That's what taught me that's the wrong thing to do.
But no, I think, he is up there. Also, of course, Otis needs to be discussed.
Yes, 100%.
But I personally have to say, I think my favourite is Baby Firefly. I think she is just a revelation in this film. I really, really do. She is my absolute favourite. Again, almost everything she says is a quote.
I love her as a character. My only con is the evil laughter.
I love that though. It's so part of the film.
Personally, I know the argument could be made that how irritating it is kind of deliberate, but for me, occasionally I'm just like, oh, shush.
It's completely deliberate. It's not
I know
just
it
an
is.
argument
Yeah.
can be made. It's completely
I know,
deliberate.
but occasionally it doesn't like get on my nerves as much as it gets on my nerves.
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
But, apart from that, yeah, I mean, Cherie Moon does a brilliant job of being like the femme fatale, like you know what I mean, like the way she sort of like
The
charms.
anti-femme fatale.
Yeah, and you know the way she charms all the male characters and is all flirty with them, and then flips the script and turns completely evil on them is brilliant.
I do think she's the only one, apart from Spalding in this film, that you couldn't recast as someone else. It's
I don't
her
know,
completely.
The guy who plays Otis.
No, yeah, that's true. Otis is
I'd say definitely brings his own like sort of flavour to it. Although I know what you mean. Like, those two characters are so ingrained in those actors do bring something which I don't think you could get very easily, at least in another actor. I do agree.
Do you think we should talk about a bit about the director before we get to
I reckon we should definitely talk a little bit about the director. So, Rob Zombie, I mean, in case you're
Who's that guy? Never heard of him.
I mean, you know, he's just some bloke. But in case you're not already aware, I mean, he first came to prominence as the lead singer of the band White Zombie in the 80s and 90s. And all throughout his career, in terms of the aesthetic of the way the band present themselves on their album covers and their music videos and their stage show, as well as in the music itself, was always really informed particularly by classic 70s horror and exploitation movies. He has always had a huge affinity for this stuff, and it's always been a massive part of the way that he has presented himself in his music, and that continued in his own solo career when the band split off. So it should take no surprise to anybody really that upon this film, his directorial debut, he went pretty much carried on in the same direction.
He really did.
And he has carried on in the same direction beyond this film in a bunch of his other, in pretty much all of his films have carried on. I mean, not necessarily as
In your
as
face?
gaudy. Yeah, no, this film is so gaudy and trashy, and I think he definitely carries on the grindhouse aesthetic in the Devil's Rejects, which is the sequel of this. But yeah, let's have a look at the other films that he's done. The two Halloween remakes. Obviously.
I love the first one.
I'm a big fan of the first half of the first one.
Yeah.
Which is
We all agree on that.
Yeah. The first half of the first Halloween film is like an origin story of Mike Myers, and you really get a sense of that character, although I think the second half is too much of a retread. He did Lords of Salem, which for me personally I think is my favourite film.
It's Cherie Moon's best film.
Yeah, without question. I mean,
Such a sick
but it really massively underrated. But I think even though the kind of that grindhouse aesthetic is a bit more understated, it still wears its influences completely on its sleeve, and it does go absolutely batshit in the last 10 minutes, which I'm a sucker for that. He also did 31, which I've seen. Have either of you two seen 31?
I haven't seen it. No.
On my to-do list.
I was saying about this
Very top of my to-do
to
list.
I was saying this to Ruby earlier. If you're a fan of Rob Zombie, if you proper like what Rob Zombie does, you'll like it. But if you don't, you won't. It is pure. It was crowdfunded and made properly for his fans. So it does come with a recommendation if you're into what he does. But there's another sequel to in this series in the works called 3 from Hell, which
Really? I did not know about that.
There's a
When's that?
Next year.
next
Is
year.
it?
Yeah.
Oh!
Did you not know?
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Man, there's a teaser trailer on YouTube and everything. Yeah, after this is done, you're getting on that, aren't you?
That is the best Halloween news you've given me.
But he is. Rob Zombie has always worn his influences really, really clearly on his sleeve. He loves the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He loves...
Clearly in this film.
Yeah, I think if you wanted to talk about points of reference in this film specifically, I think the biggest one is the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and in The Devil's Rejects as well. I think these characters are hugely influenced by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Manson family as well.
Well, it maybe not even so much that film in itself. I mean, it is that film in itself, but just in general that era of horror, isn't it? It's a massive callback to that.
Yeah.
There was a bit actually that really made me smile. Well, I was grinning like an idiot from start to finish, but it made me smile even more. I don't know if you caught it. Otis is sort of ranting or preaching to one of his victims. I think it's when he's talking to the cheerleader.
Yeah.
And at one point he says something along the lines of, I must break free of this culture of mechanical reproductions. And I was just like, oh my God, could you be any more obvious? But I love it.
Yeah. That sounds like something like straight out of Charles Manson's mouth, doesn't it?
Well, that, and
You know what
also
I mean?
just in terms of like filmmaking, and horror specifically. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it because possibly that's more relevant now than it was in 2000. But it just struck me as like, that's exactly what you're doing. You're breaking free of all of the expectations that horror has, is expected to do now.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know. But...
I think that I think that Rob Zombie was doing the 70s throwback grindhousey stuff before it became cool.
Yeah.
Again, I think you had Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez doing the Grindhouse double feature, which Rob Zombie did direct one of the fake trailers for. So that was a double feature, and then in the middle they got a bunch of directors. I know they got Eli Roth to do one. They got Rob Zombie to do one of fake trailers for non-existent films. He did one. Which one was it? It was the Werewolf Women of the SS.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it would have been like a sort of a Nazi exploitation movie, which was a very real subgenre of exploitation movies. And interestingly, out of those fake trailers, one of them was for Hobo with a Shotgun, which then became one of my favourite films of all time.
Fucking good.
Yeah, no, oh man, that is a discussion for another time. I could go on about that.
Could we just pretend that's a horror film so we could do that?
It definitely.
So that's going in the what?
Well, I was going to say, if we are going to go ahead and do this not quite horror.
Hobo with a Shotgun is absolutely
It's got to be.
there.
It's got to be.
Definitely.
So we've
So
already got
good.
The Road and Hobo with a Shotgun on that
Yeah.
list.
Start making
Right.
this.
We're going to be called the Not So Much Horror Podcast.
Probably.
Absolutely. but yeah, no. I think I've pretty much summed up Rob Zombie's style there. Pretty
You kind of,
concisely.
he has to be seen to be believed. I think it's quite hard to describe his style.
I think
aside from the obvious
also.
buzzwords.
I think it's pretty Marmite as well. I could understand.
God, yeah.
I could understand someone not being into Rob Zombie.
That can lead into the first part of the competition for this episode. I'm not doing it. Okay, so this one is going to be based on the ratings. There's 2 points up for grabs. There's 5 points up for grabs this episode. So we will have a winner, and I've decided what that winner's going to get.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. I actually must say, I have not seen either the IMDb.
Neither have I,
Well, I'm going to tell you the IMDb one to start,
which is rare because in my research for other stuff, I usually have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm interested in this because I can see people hating this as much as I can see people loving it.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, I will. We're going to do the Metacritic one and Rotten Tomatoes. I'm not going to ever bother doing IMDb because it's when you guys do your research, you're always going to see it. I'm going to tell you that afterwards.
But...
You didn't this time, yeah, but
Okay.
I can't. If I give you another point, then there's a chance you could draw, and I am not ready for that situation.
We haven't thought far enough ahead.
I haven't, no. So we'll do the IMDb afterwards because I don't want it to give you too much of an idea. So we'll go for the Metacritic first, and Ruby, it's out of 100.
What, percent?
Yeah.
Or it's a percent?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's out of 100.
Okay. I'll shut up. Numbers. Out of 100 on Metacritic. Wow. Okay. I'm only just it's just dawning on me how hard of a question that actually is.
Yeah.
Because I know for a fact this was panned pretty much at first and for a very long time, and it is essentially, and I think still is considered a cult classic and not a general classic.
Yeah, massively.
But saying that, I know cult classics sometimes can get higher ratings for that reason, like years later, because people realise it's cool and doing inverted commas.
Does Metacritic include retroactive reviews, or are they only contemporary reviews?
I have no idea.
No,
I'm
not
stuff
100%
works.
on
We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I guess I'll just throw something out there. 43.
Okay.
That's obviously not my view. I'm just guessing.
Anthony Ansfield.
I'm gonna go off of the. I'm gonna guess Metacritic is contemporary reviews, and I didn't know it was panned per se, but I have noticed rewatching this film that a lot of the filmmaking on a technical level is incredibly sloppy in this film, which some of it adds character in my opinion, some of it detracts in my opinion.
Too many inverted shots where
we will get to that for sure. But I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna go with a guess of I'm gonna say 20.
Ooh.
20.
Yeah.
So you were
43.
43.
Yeah.
And you were 20.
Yep.
The first person to get the first ever point in the Let's Watch Horror podcast has won by 1 point.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's either 20... Well, no, it's not either 20.
I thought Ruby was meant to be the one who was bad with numbers, mate.
At least I knew I was wrong, okay? That's the start. Okay, so Manny, you get the point.
Oh!
Yeah, it got a miserable 31.
Really?
Yeah, so you were 11 points away, Ruby was 12.
Oh,
yeah. One point
I
closer
you
than...
meant that, like,
no.
Yeah, it was one away from my guess. Okay.
Yeah,
that's how I do it. Manny was 12 away, 11 away. Yeah. How do you feel about that? Do you think that makes sense?
I feel sad.
I'm upset about that, but I feel like it makes sense for the reception it got.
It does make sense because, like I said, I can imagine audiences hating it, and I can see why critics would not be into this. Because it is, it's gaudy, it's it is sloppily made in parts.
And if you're not into the Rob Zombie style, then, like you're saying, Marmite.
Yeah, this film is incredibly Marmite, I feel.
I just feel like as a film critic, you should be able to at least slightly step outside of your own perspective and say, okay, this may not be for me, but for what they were trying to achieve, they achieved it and more. Yeah. That's what frustrates me.
But at the same time, is there not an argument to be made that this film does have some incredibly questionable techniques in terms of there were shots in this film where I go, where I'm thinking to myself, what the hell did they mean by that? In my opinion,
I found a bit where they keep going the negative aspect.
That is my least favourite element of this film with the negative. It looked like absolute crap.
You know what it made me think of? Like early 90s music video.
Yeah, completely. It looked like something that 9 Inch Nails would do.
Definitely.
Or me with my first ever flip phone.
Yeah.
You could.
So just to elaborate on that for the audience, there are shots in this film, which you know what we're talking about if you've seen it, where they invert the colour scheme. It becomes negative. And it just looks like absolute crap.
It's constant. Constant.
When they do it, it's my least favourite.
There's one bit where he tried to
rubbish.
Make it drain into normal colour, and it didn't quite work.
When the cop car pulls up, the dog's in front of it.
But the dog stays negative longer than the rest of it.
Yeah.
And but I don't want to rip into this film because I love it. Okay,
there's not going to be much I think we're going to dig into. So if you're going to go for something, I guess it would be that.
Yeah.
I don't really get where you're coming from. I guess I understand it, but it didn't bother me.
It didn't bother me that much, but I did notice it.
I've got to say, it did. But a couple of those shots, I thought it looked rubbish. So
it was a strange artistic choice because it doesn't look scary or anything. It doesn't particularly add much atmosphere in any way. So it was an odd choice. But it didn't take me out of it, it didn't irritate me or anything. So
it kind of did go with the style, I guess. So it's not like
it wasn't random.
Yeah,
when the rest of it was normal, it fitted in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we're gonna go for Rotten Tomatoes now.
Oh yeah.
Manny, by the way, how do you want to tell the audience how you feel about Rotten Tomatoes? Because every time I bring it up,
this is your one and only time.
Your one and only chance
Never
to tell everyone how you feel about it.
Rotten Tomatoes is the death of the film industry in many ways. It doesn't. Not only do so many people judge a film completely off the Rotten Tomatoes score before they've even seen the bloody thing, on top of that, doesn't even give a weighted average. It's like binary. It's like it's either good or bad, and even the way they choose whether a review is good or bad sometimes is really questionable. And that's my 2 cents.
There you go,
That's
Manny.
all you need to
But
know.
why? Sorry, I just want to understand this a little bit more. Is that the only reason? Because of the whole binary thing, or
It's that, and it's just the fact that culturally, like they've started putting on like Blu-ray cases, like approved fresh on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow, really?
Yeah, like they did it. They did it for Ghostbusters, the remake, and they did it for something else as well.
that's
I
really
can't
because they
remember
were
off
just
the top
really
of my head.
surprised at that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it was a massive flop, so I guess they needed to,
needed something.
they needed to scrape whatever they could.
But so with bear that in mind, what do you think it got as a percentage out of 100? Obviously.
Can you remind me who does the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes? Is it anybody?
No, it's not absolutely anybody.
Okay.
So
So it's critics.
I'm not 100% sure on the criteria of what.
But it's
it means.
either good or bad.
Yeah.
That is your
Yeah,
choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or fresh
And
or
I'm guessing that's
rotten.
it's over or under 50%. Right?
I'm not. I don't know.
Oh.
But again, like, but it is really. I remember I read into it once, and it is off anyway. So,
But yeah, what do you reckon?
this is
Manny
tough.
can go
Okay,
first this
fair
time.
enough.
This is tough.
I like that. I can cheat them.
Yeah.
Alright. I'm just gonna go with a gut feeling and go for, you know what I mean, I'm gonna cop out and say 31% and go with the Metacritic score because I just can't be bothered to think because I don't know.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good guesstimation there, Manny.
Yeah.
Okay, Ruby, your turn.
It's hard to know because I don't even have an inkling of like does Rotten Tomatoes tend to go low or tend to go high?
Do you want me to give you a little example that may help you? There's a very, very famous horror film that's sitting at a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What?
Yeah, it may have changed. But when I
Something
when I
can't
started
be
when I
0%.
started when I was
What is it?
it was about 10 years ago when I first worked out the internet, and I was like, oh, Rotten Tomatoes.
You're making us sound
Yeah.
older by the episode.
Okay,
mate.
it's a horror franchise, very famous, and it starts with a Friday. Yeah, the first one is apparently. I mean, I'm not going to check now.
0%.
But when I checked, it had 0% on there. Yeah,
first
a long.
Friday?
Yeah, yeah,
So
long
I'm
time.
guessing that means we're
So
gonna
yeah,
go
that
very
may
low.
help you with.
Okay, I'm gonna say then 13%.
Okay, well,
You just said Friday 13th.
nice. Well, very quickly, Ruby, you win that round. So it had 19%.
Oh,
Blimey.
nice.
Oh, fair
Wow.
enough. Yeah,
Wow, I
that,
won
that,
one.
that does make sense. Honestly, I can see why critics.
Sad, but
I can see why critics panned this. You know what I mean? It's not arty enough for them.
It's lazy reviewing, is what it is.
I
I get very defensive.
You do.
Critics' palettes are very. You know what I mean? Like you have to keep in mind how many films they watch. If they
I
see
get
something like
that.
this,
But
it's
do they all have the same palette? In which case, it's not giving a fair representation, is it?
There's a few people that would have said yes, though, Ru. So
yeah.
just be happy that those
I
are.
guess.
It is the definition of a cult thing. You know, the fact it doesn't please many people, but those few people who it does please are rabid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know
And
what I
maybe
mean?
maybe as much as I don't like to admit it, maybe that makes me like it a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know, there's always going to be that element to
Yeah,
it.
you-
I mean, if everyone loved this film, we wouldn't be able to say the story about how it's the film that you know a true horror fan.
Yeah, true.
When you were,
Yeah.
or are
You
kind of
need
horror
that one in
fan.
your collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a true horror fan, but someone who enjoys this kind of horror. It's like a signifier.
Very similar to Diary of the Dead, I feel.
Oh, get out! Shut up.
We're not going down that road.
Nah, you can just get lost, mate. Not at all.
So I think maybe we should sort of we kind of covered the beginning a little
Yep.
bit, didn't we? With Spalding at his weird little museum of horrors, or what is it? The sign it says gas food murder.
Yeah, and
Just brilliant.
and the
Oh,
bad
that
guys
was-
come in. Oh no, the conversation. I think I wrote down a couple of things that they said in that little conversation he has with that guy.
What, the police officer? Or
No, the guy he's talking
the
to.
robber.
No, the guy before that. He's that kind of hillbilly guy.
Oh, the
he's
dude
like
who goes who
Spucky?
uses
Spucky?
the
Yeah.
toilet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Stucky. It's not Spucky.
yeah.
Good guess.
Played by Michael Pollard.
I can't read my own notes.
Neither
but...
can I. I don't know what's going on there.
Oh, just quickly as well. Before that, we have that Dr. Wolfenstein kind of episode start. What did you guys think about that?
I think
I didn't really get it.
To
But I liked
me,
it.
it was just a sort of a signifier of the kind of the campy tone of the film.
The
You know
creature
what I mean?
feature show.
Of him, it's like, I'm going to be with you till the very end.
Yeah.
All that thing. It was a signifier of the fact that the film... the film is very campy. It's the film, the guy's looking directly at the camera, and it's kind of letting you know that it is a throwback to that kind of,
it sets the tone.
Yeah,
and there's a lot
completely.
of that throughout the film, with like this sort of Betty Page-esque style,
the
burlesque
burlesque stuff,
bondage
yeah.
stuff,
Exactly.
like, these sort of old school tapes that just, I think, reinforce what they're trying to do throughout.
Yeah. It definitely has a vision.
Also, did you not notice that it kind of circled back round to that later on?
Yeah.
That it was Denise's dad was watching it on TV at home on Halloween. So that also is maybe why it came up, because it was someone was actually watching it.
Yeah.
So you don't find it out till later, and it's relatively unimportant, but I just thought it was quite cute.
Yeah, that they bring it back and actually give it a reason. For
It's not just something that they're just stitching into the film. It actually has
reason.
some, I get you. It's, yeah.
Well done, Mr. Zombie.
Yeah. Nice.
And that's the thing, I just feel like the whole thing is just this pure celebration of the genre.
You get so
isn't
excited
it?
when we watch this
'cause it
film,
just-
Rue.
To me, it's just joyful. I know that might not be the word
Wait till we
that
start talking about what happens in this film.
most people choose to describe it, but to me, it's just pure joy, this film. Like, he is just... You can feel his pride and joy in this film, in every shot, in every choice.
He went for it.
Wait
He really went
till
for
we
it.
get to the trivia. I've got something quite interesting. You say about his pride and joy, and we'll get to
Oh
that.
no! Don't disappoint me.
We'll
Not now.
Get to that. Do you want me to just bring it up now?
Yeah.
Alright, we'll bring it up now.
I don't know.
While acknowledging the film's cult fandom, Rob Zombie himself has admitted he is not fond of the film, saying it's a calamitous mess, and all that he said, all I see is floor after floor after floor.
Oh, that makes me sad.
But like I said, I think the film does have sloppiness to it. To me, it is in
but
points.
it
is
suits the story.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. It gives it a real tone and a character. But I think if you're looking at it through his shoes, where he's trying to, advance his craft and get better with every film, which I feel like he has. You know what I mean? There are elements of this film which are so questionable in their choices, and it makes it more interesting as a viewer. But if you look at it through his eyes as a filmmaker, trying to advance his craft, he probably would find parts of this film
It is very
frustrating. It's very, very messy. I like the messiness in points. I think it does give the film a really manic vibe. But at the same time, there are also elements where I thought rewatching the film again, I did find it quite annoying in parts. Not too much, but there were definitely elements where I was like, why are you doing that? That is just excessive. But,
I'm not completely and utterly taken aback by the fact that he doesn't look back on it in complete fondness, because, like you say, he's a filmmaker, he's an artist. That's that's the stereotype of an artist, is they're self-critical all the time. They're always going to be criticising their own work.
You've got to be
in hindsight, because that's how they progress, and so it doesn't completely shock or surprise me. Makes me sad, because I think you can still improve whilst not hating on yourself, especially for something that his fans love so much. I kind of take that as a bit of a backhand, like a bit insulting to your own fans. Like, people love this film, they love him because of this film, and to be like, oh, it's shit, is a bit like, oh.
But
what does that say about me?
There's a whole other group of people who love The Devil's Rejects a lot more, which, we'll get to that. To that.
But I suppose if he's trying to become a more popular director, then admitting that your film that most of the world would say is bad may,
That's so
I know
weird.
there is a select few that are going to get upset about
At
it,
least
like
it's
we
his
are.
first film he feels that way about.
Okay.
Manny, do you really think that The Devil's Rejects is better than this?
In my opinion, yeah.
Really?
I find this film is more fun to me. I like the fun nature of this film, but I enjoy The Devil's Rejects for the fact that it feels genuinely messed up. Like the Devil's Rejects feels proper nasty. I feel as an actual horror film, it's way more effective. Plus, the ending of The Devil's Rejects might be my favourite film ending ever. No, that's a statement. It's definitely.
Do you
one
not
of
feel
them.
like it was more? It's always weird to me that it's discussed as like one of sort of like the biggest horror films, modern horror films ever, isn't it? The Devil's Rejects.
I remember when the adverts were coming out for it was like the biggest.
Like everyone was talking about it that I remember.
Yeah.
And yeah, like in my memory, again, I have only seen it once. We definitely need to watch it again.
Yeah.
It's tempting to do it as the next one, but I don't think we could quite go away with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, in my mind, it was like a drama. It was like a crime drama. It wasn't really a horror film.
It had some very messed up bits in it.
But so do crime dramas. You know, it just felt like these are some criminals who they're essentially like kind of on the run in that film, aren't they?
Yeah, but there are some like some of the torture scenes in The Devil's Rejects are
very
the
sickening.
way that they're filmed and everything, it wasn't. It's so. My point is, it's so different to this movie. It's completely and utterly different.
This film definitely feels like a house of horrors, right? Like you know, what I mean, it has that carnival element to it. Whereas, like I mentioned the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think in terms of the aesthetic, the visual aesthetic of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre is such a huge influence on The Devil's Rejects, which is I think why I like it.
Which is intriguing to me actually, because you are a big proponent of the first ever Texas Chainsaw.
Yeah, I love that film.
I would say this film is almost mimicking.
Yeah, in terms of the plot,
in the nicest way possible.
Oh yeah. You think of like the family scenes where they're all sitting around,
exactly.
that is a proper callback.
Yeah, and yet you hate the remake of the Texas Chainsaw, which actually is
I don't hate the remake.
Well, in comparison, you've always said it's trash. In comparison, you've always said that. And The Devil's Rejects is kind of like that. You know, it's got a similar sort of vibe to it, where it's like it's more focused on the drama element than the just brutal, gritty horror scenes.
Sorry to cut you off. If I've ever said that I thought that the remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was trash, I don't think it's trash at all.
No, in comparison.
But I think that doing a sort of a big budget Hollywood remake of a film like that is sort of. I know
original. Maybe it wasn't the best example, but you know what I'm saying.
But I know what you're saying in terms of like comparing it to the Devil's Rejects, though.
I personally didn't like The Devil's Reject when I first watched it because I hadn't seen this film. So the opening scene where that person's like dragging the naked. I was like, what the fuck is this?
No idea.
And then got into the film, was like, who the fuck are these people? I don't get any of it. Watched it again afterwards, and I definitely was like, this is awesome, and I love that he changed it. But I really can't see how you like that more than House of a Thousand Corpses. It's so good.
No, it's nice to have a differing opinion though, because otherwise this would just be a total slobberfest. Have a slightly differing opinion.
I could watch this more easily, almost. I feel, but it's that I feel as though there are certain scenes in The Devil's Rejects which I think are astonishingly good, and to the point which are way better than anything in this. But I think this is more of a fun watch, and I do I've said I like grindhousey stuff, and this has that proper like fun but sleazy feel to it, and I dig that kind of stuff. So it was good.
But I think what we can all agree on is that they're both about the Firefly family and the Firefly. That's really hard to say. Firefly family, and they're bloody brilliant.
Yeah, excellent cast of characters. I mean, anything where you can root for the villain is always an absolute shout in my book.
Always good.
I just going back to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre links, I was just looking at the front cover and how relevant is this? And I suppose how much does it show it didn't do very well when it came out. So the review on the front is, without doubt, the craziest film since the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and that was from Billy Chainsaw, who wrote that for Bizarre magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, sure.
That makes a lot of sense.
It does. It does.
Do you remember Bizarre magazine? I don't think that's still going, is it?
What is Bizarre magazine?
It used to be. You could just get it in petrol stations. I don't know if it's still there.
I hate the word alternative magazine.
Oh, was it
always had some sweet babes on the front.
Oh, was it like Front magazine, kind of?
I don't know what that is.
Front magazine is sort of like that, where they have like a lot of like tattooed women in it, and
basically,
stuff like that.
And it was like articles on like suspension. What's it called when like self-suspension?
Yeah.
Like, tattooing and piercing and metal and all this kind of stuff. But
good stuff.
Don't think they're still going. Bless them. Not many magazines are.
Rest in peace, print media. Not all.
But yeah, I mean, even
it's all about podcasts now.
We're taking over.
We hope. Even in the first 5 minutes when on the murder ride, he has a little shout out to Ed Gein, doesn't he?
Yep.
So it is just a direct. And I mean, even before that, there's a shout out to the Manson family as well. So some really obvious, unashamed call outs to the influences, which I love. I love that. It's like, why not? Why not just say it by name?
All of Rob Zombie's stuff it wears its influences proudly.
Exactly.
Doesn't try to hide them.
And
at
I
all.
really like that. I think
Yeah,
I love it. It's like a horror / true crime fan was. Someone said, "Here's a load of money, make a horror film," but also they had made their own awesome music, and you could add that into it.
Yeah.
I feel like I would make a film like this if I had, if I could.
Rob Zombie's one of us, mate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That you do.
That's how
get
it makes
that.
you feel.
Yeah, I've always felt that way. Even though I'm not mental about his music, I do love his films. You know,
And the music works well with the film.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Very complimentary.
So we kind of started talking about some of the cast, didn't we? Some of the casting characters, and we was talking about the Firefly family. There's a bigger family than I remembered. Like in my memory, even though I love this film so much, it was Mama Firefly.
Who we thought was Stifler's mum.
We did.
I don't know why. Terrible memory. Like, all old blonde women look the same, apparently.
Past it, blonde, plastic surgery up to the thing, you know. I mean, it's same kind of look. Even though she's way more, Mama Firefly is way more like grotty, and the teeth are all yellow.
I thought you were going to say
the teeth, isn't it? I think
Yeah.
it's all in the teeth. She's played by Karen Black. And then, all I can remember really was her, obviously Spaulding, played by Sid Haig, Baby, played by the wonderful Sherry Moon, or Sherry Moon Zombie as she is now known. And obviously Otis. I didn't realise this until doing some research, that Otis isn't part of the family by blood.
Oh.
His name is Otis B. Driftwood. And obviously in the film they don't ever actually address that, so I don't know. Maybe that's something that we should know.
Maybe we're going to find out in the new one. Oh, I'm so happy.
There were words being
that.
thrown around about him sort of being almost like adopted into the family. I don't, because he doesn't seem to be in a relationship with Baby or anything. That's obvious anyway.
No.
But yeah, they're sort of the main ones, and of course Tiny, played by the wonderful Matthew McGrory. You guys must know who he is.
Yep.
You said
the guy
that,
from Big Fish.
Yeah.
I've definitely seen him.
Yeah.
Before,
He's been around.
Yeah.
Sadly passed away.
He did.
Not too long after this
R.I.P.
film.
Yeah.
I find him so cute in this film. I really do. When you see him, he's got that t-shirt, that
so
shirt
many
on.
good shirts.
The shirt on, was it like
cheap ass Halloween costume?
That's it. Yeah.
Which we have to get one for Manny.
Yeah, because I hate dressing up for Halloween.
And that would be like double bubble, because it's like t-shirt for Halloween, but also a House of a Thousand.
And it would kind of go with my Spaulding costume I'm going to be this year.
Yeah, like you did the other year, because you do.
Don't tell everyone.
We can just pretend it never
The
happened.
first time I'm doing it, okay?
I am determined that one year we are going to be Manny as Otis, you as Sid, Spaulding, and me as Baby. It's happening. It's happening.
Alright, nice. We can get fucked up.
I'm the only one with.
Shit.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm the only one with the correct hair for my person.
Yeah.
Manny could work it out, just some straightening. And
Yeah.
Anyway, we're getting off topic. We're totally getting off topic. But yeah, the family's a lot bigger than I remembered. There's also Grandpa, Hugo Firefly, played by Dennis Fimple.
This was his last film before he passed away.
Yeah, there was a little dedication at the
Yeah,
end of the film.
I like it. This is in my trivia.
Go for it.
Bring it up. He was suffering from heart disease while filming this film, and had to film the majority of his scenes while sitting down. If you noticed, which was like specifically because of how much the onset of his heart disease at that point. I think he died.
He still put some serious oomph into it. Like,
yeah, I know.
When he's doing his little comedy sketch show thing,
Yeah.
I'm not going to repeat what he says in it.
Oh yeah, it's a bit
Neither
shit.
should you, Manny. Don't. I can see your mouth curling, ready to do it. But yeah, he goes for it.
Yeah, it's a bit much, isn't it? But no, that part where his mouth full of mashed potatoes. What is it he says? It's like, let the mayhem begin.
Yeah.
Or something like, that's funny. Yeah, no, he does put in a
proper grim. It's wonderful.
He gives me the heebie-jeebies.
And then there's, of course, Earl Firefly, otherwise known as the Professor.
Oh, man.
Who we don't meet until the very end of the film.
Oh, man.
He looks incredible.
Yeah, no, that big ups to whoever designed that costume.
I did not like how red his head is.
Oh,
I did not like that.
That's so horrible.
Yeah.
Oh, man, but big, seriously, whoever designed that costume, like, if they didn't win some kind of industry award, then I will burn down said industry. Because in fact, that whole scene, the surgeon as well, who had all of those
Dr.
like
Satan.
Dr.
prosthetic-
Satan.
yeah, with all of the all of like the mechanic arms coming off him as well.
Now, that would be
It
a
looks
Halloween costume.
and that set design of that thing, because I do feel as though towards that part of the film, the narrative does become maybe a little bit too clumsy for its own
it
good.
goes insane.
But it is completely saved by the sick set design. The set design is so cool, and the costume design and is just so creative and awesome. And it's like you just step into the middle of hell, isn't it?
It's
great.
beautiful, and I've lusted after that bone chandelier ever since I first saw it.
Yeah,
it
it's
shall be
sick.
mine. It shall be mine.
Oh yes.
I'm not looking forward to putting that up.
Probably bigger than this house.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally with you. That end scene is stunning.
Yeah, it
and you
really
say it
is.
goes crazy towards the end. Like, of course it does. It totally loses its any sort of thread it has.
But to be fair, how the hell else are you going to introduce the zombies at the bottom of a mud pit and then a little road towards Dr. Satan and Earl? There's no way you could do that.
Yeah, totally. And it's worth it. You know, you don't need any more
By
development.
that
than
point,
you've already
I'm
had.
willing for him to
Exactly.
do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
I've noticed that's a real recurring theme throughout a lot of Rob Zombie's films. Towards the end, it's sort of, he just lets it loose, so
That's
it just goes
grindhouse
a bit.
to a T, right?
It just goes nuts. Like he did it in Lord Salem. It does do it in the Devil's Rejects too. You know what I mean? He likes to do that. I love movies that do that, where it's just like in the all right, we're in the final part of the final act. Let's just go completely insane together. It's good fun.
Totally works.
Yeah, it does.
So yeah, that's the professor. He is Dr. Satan's like assistant, I guess you'd call it, even though arguably way more terrifying than Dr. Satan himself in a way, because physical power on top of everything else.
He was the guy that brought him the people. Surely
Must be,
that
right?
was his purpose.
clearly.
Yeah, that's what he does. That lovely bit of goo that he kind of coughs out when he takes his mask off added a lovely little bit of
Yes,
deliciousness
Nice.
there.
tasty.
I'm guessing, I think from what I read, he's like the father of the family, or at least some of the children. And Captain Spaulding, he's not technically part of the family, but clearly he's working closely with them, played by Sid Haig, which we've discussed. Like you mentioned as well, Sid Haig's career has just been so impressive. He's been in over 50 films.
Really?
And
Wow.
like over 350 TV episodes.
Wow.
Crikey, I didn't know that.
He has done a buttload of B-movies in general, B-movie horrors, as well as a load of blaxploitation, which you referred to earlier in the 70s.
Yeah.
He was quite famous off the back of that. He actually retired in the early 90s because of what he said. He was sick of playing stupid heavies. So he was getting typecast a lot. So he actually retired from acting, which would have been one of the worst things to ever happen. And it was strange. He actually passed up the role of Marcellus Wallace in Pulp Fiction.
Really?
He passed it up because I think, by the sounds of it, he didn't
So
think it was going to go
the guy
anywhere.
who Ving Rhames plays in Pulp Fiction?
Yep, Marcellus Wallace himself.
That
He
would have
passed it
been
up.
cool.
And
I can fully picture that as well.
I know, right?
Holy
Oh,
Christ.
poor
I
Marcellus.
know. Can you imagine a bigger career regret than that? That's crazy.
No.
And he says he seriously
It's
regretted
almost like
it.
Will Smith and Neo.
Oh, yeah, that's famous, isn't it?
I think I'd argue worse than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But luckily, Tarantino really wanted him. Obviously, Tarantino's big influence by the 70s, especially
Yeah,
Black exploitation stuff.
yeah, of course.
And Sid Haig had worked a lot with Pam Grier, and Tarantino actually wrote a role for Sid Haig in Jackie Brown. He's the judge.
Oh.
So if you remember, it's not a massive role, but it's there.
Not off the top of my head.
And it was written specifically for him, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Which got him back into acting in 1997. And then, he came into this. So we were very lucky that he came back.
Go on, Sid.
Thank God.
I mean, this is like one of his most iconic roles.
Yeah,
For
this
sure.
is what made him a legend again, kind of thing. Like
To us, like our generation,
Oh, God, yeah.
especially. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
But
obviously he was then in Devil's Rejects and is going to continue being in these films. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Awesome.
And the other person of note that we've mentioned is, of course, Sherry Moon. Now Sherry Moon Zombie, who plays Baby Firefly.
Yep.
She's of course in Devil's Rejects as well. She's in Halloween and The Lords of Salem, and she's also going to be in 3 from Hell. So I'm so excited.
Is
for
she in anything other than Rob Zombie stuff?
that. Not really.
No.
It's almost exclusively horror and almost exclusively Rob Zombie films. She never wanted to be an actor.
Ah.
That wasn't a career choice for her. It was essentially accidental from being married to Rob Zombie, or dating Rob Zombie. Apart from, I think, a stint in CSI, it's pretty much Rob Zombie horror films.
which I mean, I think that may have been the episode that Rob Zombie directed.
Wow, that would make
He
sense.
literally I've got it right here. He directed an episode of CSI Miami.
It's got to be
Wow.
right.
So quite literally, hey, I'm doing this thing. Can my wife be in this thing?
Because I've heard them be slagged off for this, basically. I've heard this a lot, that she gets slagged off for, not really being an actor, and her only getting hired by her husband. But I have no time for that.
But it works
she's
so
great.
well.
She's
What's
great
the
at what
point
she
of-
does, exactly.
Who else would you... No, that's bullshit.
No time
That's
for that rubbish. It is absolute rubbish.
yeah.
Yeah, she's not the most groundbreaking actor of all time. No, I think anyone's arguing that, but she does her job
And she's
really
baby
bloody
Firefly,
well.
and
Exactly.
that's important.
Exactly.
Yeah, completely.
And she likes to get fucked up and do fucked up shit.
You've been waiting to say that okay, for 49 minutes now.
Every day.
I think I said it earlier and you missed it.
Oh, no.
Sorry to steal your thunder.
In terms of horror, also is the wonderful Bill Moseley, who plays Otis.
Oh,
You
yes.
both said at some point in that film, like, I know him from somewhere. You're going to know him from so many places. He's done a lot.
Yeah.
He was in Texas Chainsaw 2 in 86.
I've seen that.
Oh,
film
really?
Once.
Okay.
Shop Top, apparently his name was in that. I've only ever seen the first one.
I've seen that film once.
It's weird.
Yeah.
I've seen number 3 like way more times than number 2.
Is that the one called Leatherface?
Yeah, with Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah,
That's probably
right.
why.
Yeah.
Aragorn is in Leatherface.
Yeah, I know I've seen that. But...
And this will make you happy, Rob. He was also in Army of Darkness in 1992.
Really?
Really?
Nice.
You wouldn't recognise him. He has a crap ton of makeup on. But
Is he the priest dude?
I can't remember the name now. He's some kind of like warrior. He's one of like the skeleton-y
Really?
warriors.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
but he has so much latex on his face, it's mad. So
Army
you
of
would know
Darkness,
him.
by the way, is the 3rd installment of the Evil Dead series.
They all know.
I just want to talk about it more. What if they don't? What if one person on listening to us now watches that film and I made them do it?
It's all worth it.
Yeah.
That's very true. If you have not been provoked to watch the Army of Darkness, if you're aware of the Evil Dead films and haven't seen the 3rd one, you are messing up.
This is my boomstick.
Absolute classic.
Glorious, mate.
Speaking of classics, yeah, he's been in a load. He's been in so many cult classics, especially horror. He's generally considered pretty iconic in the horror community. So,
Yeah.
and he did a bloody good job in this as well.
He did.
So
He really did.
I love the character of Otis.
He's just amazing.
As much as I do think Spalding is the best thing about this film, I think
It falls apart without Otis, right?
It falls apart without Otis, and if you want to talk about badass one-liners, he's got a few in this. There was the one where he says, our bodies come and go, but this blood is forever. And what was the other one where he says, the boogeyman is real, and you found him. It's fantastic. Real bone-chilling
It's
stuff.
very watchable, and I just
Oh,
love
man,
the fact that
proper.
he's so eloquent, right? You just don't expect that when you see that sort of character. He's mesmerising, and you can see why they follow him. He's become a little bit of the leader of the family, so it seems anyway.
Eloquent, but in a proper insane way.
Oh, completely, yeah.
Yeah.
In a Joker style way.
Yeah,
It sort of reminded me of that. Like, it just kind of affirms that the Fireflies aren't mindless killers. They're not these sort of, as much as he's going back to the days of Texas Chainsaw, they're not these kind of faceless, voiceless slasher villains.
Yeah.
They may be crazy, but for them it's like a philosophy, right? That's how it seems.
There's a motive, but it's just twisted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a way of life for them. It's how they live their lives, and to them it makes sense. It's like they're just complete anarchists in my mind, which makes you just a little bit warmer to them than you probably should be, or at least for me anyway.
Even though that does apply more to the Firefly family, I do think that saying the Texas Chainsaw family don't have a motive is because they do have a motive. It is sort of have become a ritual for them. It's like they are a twisted family, but it's way more. You actually do warm to these characters. You don't ever get a sense of who the family in the Leatherface's family are in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They are, just just a bunch of crazy hicks, basically. You know what I mean? But in this, they have way more. They have way more character for sure.
We are 53 minutes in, which doesn't mean anything, but it's the time for the next competition piece.
Go on there.
There's 1 point up for grabs at the moment, and we just watched this film, so you should be pretty close to getting this right.
And that's
but
the time one, is it?
it is the time one. I want you to tell me how long you reckon this film was.
Okay.
Do
you want to go first, Ruby?
Sure, why not? Let's do it.
you're going to tell me in minutes?
No.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you however I want to.
Okay.
Mainly because I can't do minutes. It felt really short to me. It went really fast for me. But that's not necessarily a reflection of how long it actually is.
And keep in mind, we did take a couple of toilet
that's
breaks.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
I'm going to say an hour and 20.
Okay, so that's 80 minutes.
Okay.
I'm going to go bang on and say an hour and 30 because I'm going to keep on the trend of not really bothering to think about it.
I had a feeling you might say that after what Ruby said, which means we're in a tiebreaker from the back of the box. It's different on Wikipedia, but we're going with the back of the box.
Yeah, we're going off this
Okay,
stuff.
so I'm going to have to ask you how many seconds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got to. This is the only way we can break this tie.
What? Off of our time?
Yeah, so add seconds on.
Oh, Christ. Oh, so it's 125 minutes?
No. It is. I'm not going to tell you, but just if you're both the same, it's 5 minutes in between. So it's an hour and 25 minutes. Okay, so 85 minutes.
Right.
Okay, you picked 80, you picked 90.
So it was smack bang in the middle of both of our estimates.
Oh.
Yeah.
Now what do you do?
You know what?
Go on, improvise, boy.
Yeah, that's why I was going to say seconds, so that hopefully one of you would be
but
further
you
away
worked
from
it out.
95,
Yeah,
and then Manny worked it out. So actually, in that case, we'll go for the Wikipedia time,
Okay.
which
fair enough.
means we actually do have a winner.
Do you know...
Oh.
I know the Wikipedia time, and unfortunately for you, Rue, it's Manny, because it's 88 minutes on Wikipedia.
Do you know what which cut that is?
I don't know if it's a different cut. It might just include credits. I don't know if no. This would surely include. I don't know. I don't know the reason why. I just saw that during my research.
The reason why I'm asking about cuts is because, which really that's another one of the piece of trivia I've got down here, which is the fact that there were a bunch of cuts made to this film to make it an R rating as opposed to an NC-17. So in America, receiving an NC-17 rating, which means no one under the age of 17 will be admitted. But the thing is, it's pretty much a kiss of death for a film because it means the vast majority of cinemas will not touch it.
So what's an R rating then?
An R rating is anyone under the age of 16 has to be accompanied by a parent. It has to be accompanied by an adult. So
Do they not have 18?
Not like our.
No, but
English.
NC-17 means absolutely nobody under the age,
okay.
and it means that most advertisers won't. Well, like the marketing campaign gets scaled back because most cinemas will not touch it. So they made a bunch of cuts for it, and interestingly, apparently, those cuts still haven't been released.
Oh.
Which is insane to me. You'd think that they'd make it to some kind of an uncut director's cut, Blu-ray with a film that has attained a cult status.
But I guess if Rob Zombie's not a fan of his own work, then why would he bother?
Still though, if the demand's there's money to be made. You know what I mean? Hey, release that uncut. If you've got the footage, do it, mate.
Just stick it on your Patreon and
make some bank. Let me give you my money.
Any more competition questions?
We got two more, but that's coming up at the end.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So finishing off on the cast and characters in a way, I guess, in terms of their relationship to horror. You noticed this, Rob. I was hoping you wouldn't. I was hoping I'd be able to reveal it to you, but no such luck because you have the facial recognition of a robot.
I do.
Tom Towles, he plays Deputy George Wydell, he's like the main cop, I guess.
Yeah, the main cop.
So he was Otis in the film Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, which I know is one of your, maybe not favourites, but
it's a nasty
we
film.
have some history with that film.
Yeah. it is something to behold for the
It is
time.
a grim movie.
For the time, that is really, like, it does take you aback when you place it within the context of when it was made, because, jeez.
Rough.
The reason why I saw
Super-
that film is because I'd been telling my dad about all the horror films I'd watched, like Blair Witch stuff, and he was like, do you really want to watch a nasty film? And I was like, go on then. And he got me that for Christmas, and yeah, it's a nasty film.
It's really gross.
Yeah, he was...
Yeah, I mean, it really does. For the time, that film really does feel quite realistic.
I didn't
that's
I
the
didn't
problem,
enjoy it.
Yeah, it
It's
does.
not for me.
No, I recommended it to Ruby, and I...
Should not have.
Yeah, she just... my recommends were not listened to after that.
You pansy.
Walton Goggins, trying not to laugh when I say his name, who played Deputy Steve Naish, the one you were like, I know him from somewhere. He's been in a load of stuff as well. He's a Tarantino favourite. He was in both Hateful Eight and Django. But in terms of horror, not so much. And then there's the victims, as I've referred to them in my notes. Chris Hardwick, Rainn
Dwight!
Wilson, Jennifer Justin, and Erin Daniels. Yes, Dwight. The first one to die.
I know, but he became
Unfortunately.
Fish Boy, so it was worth it.
That was beautiful.
It was.
Yeah, I've literally written Dwight from The Office. Aside from that, he was in The Meg. Do you remember this
Yeah,
year?
yeah,
Which was crazy.
Who?
Did you see The Meg this year?
He's in The Meg.
Yeah.
He's the rich guy. He's the billionaire, the one who owns the whole research
What,
facility.
Dwight?
Yeah, Dwight.
Man, my mind is drawing a blank, but to be fair, I was very indifferent towards
He's
that.
also in like a superhero movie,
Yes.
which was not great.
Yeah.
Oh, Super! Was it
Yeah, I
called
think
Super?
Something like that.
Yeah. I saw it advertised.
He was enough to carry that film, to be fair.
Yeah. Good old Dwight.
Yeah, apart from that, I mean, Chris Hardwick, who played Jerry, I couldn't really believe this. He's the host of The Talking Dead.
Yeah,
now.
that's where I recognised him.
I can't believe you recognise him. He looks
I didn't know who he
nothing.
is, but I recognised him.
Nothing like he
Is the
does
Talking
now.
Dead a Walking Dead spin-off show?
No. They talk about the episode that was just aired.
It's like a new thing.
That's
that they
how
do
big
after
it
big
is.
TV shows that they have like a discussion about the episode after it airs.
It's just like the Extra Factor. Wrap your brain around that one.
Oh, Christ. What, like Bigger Brother? Or Big Brother's Big Mouth?
Yeah.
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. That sort
God.
of.
He also does loads of podcasts and
You're
stuff.
right, actually. It's been around a while, that concept, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an awful idea.
Bigger brother.
Yeah, who'd want to listen to other people talk about other kinds of media? That's a terrible idea. Shut up! Jesus.
Shut up, Maddie.
Shut up, man.
Yeah, the two ladies hadn't been an awful lot, really. A little bit of B-movie horror going on there, but not a lot. So yeah, generally, the villains in the film have way more horror experience than the victims do, which I think is just very, very clever.
I think that is.
Well, yeah, it
just
makes
works
sense.
really, really well.
Yeah.
These victims aren't supposed to have an awful lot going on behind the eyes in this film.
It's not about the victims.
No, it's all about the Firefly family, as
interestingly-
it should be.
Interestingly, I read during my research that the studio tried to get Rob Zombie to like sort of recut and refilm parts of the film in order to give it more of a focus on the main characters of the people who end up in this hapless situation. To which Rob Zombie replied, "No one gives a shit about them." Which,
Too right.
because this is a guy who knows his horror movies. Come on now, man.
I mean, there is an argument, a massive argument to be had about, and we've all said this at various times.
Not in
before.
this kind of film. I don't like in other kinds of
But
movies.
you know what I'm going to say is that
Yeah.
it is really important for you to care about the victims, otherwise you just don't give a shit. But yeah, that's in films where the villain really isn't all that. You're not rooting for them as you sort of weirdly are or end up doing in this film.
Yeah.
You're just totally.
Imagine
not
Blair Witch
really
without
on
the
there.
victims.
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
precisely.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
be
exactly.
a camera in the middle of the woods.
Well, that's it. In this, the villains, the monster of the film is at the front and centre from the. There's no suspense on who is the bad
exactly.
guy. You know what I mean? So the
Well,
spotlight
there's no
is.
suspense full stop, is there? Really?
Yeah, well, no, it's not a suspense film.
No.
It is any kind of suspense there is the threat of violence, but that's basically it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, in terms of who's at the centre of this, it's not about that. It's about it feels like a House of Horrors. It feels like a ghost train, a really nasty ghost train. It's a ride.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's it completely sums it up. I just think it's a total celebration, isn't it? It's not really even particularly trying to tell a story aside from these characters.
Yeah, the plot is pretty light.
Yeah,
It is.
but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's more than okay.
we better go into the plot a little bit, because
I mean, do we? Because
There
it
is
really
honestly, there isn't actually that much to talk about.
that's
man.
sort of what we were just saying.
Not really. I mean, like there are a group of people doing what are they even doing? They're doing like a cross country.
they're doing a tour of all these kind of crappy destinations.
All like the back street, like, you know, off the beaten path, like attractions.
They explain it in the. That's what I loved about Dwight. I'm going to call him Dwight. And
Yeah,
Spalding
it's
conversation. They're doing the whole jokey thing, and then I could kind of tell. I was like, Dwight, you, the way you were like these shithole towns or whatever, obviously pissed off Spalding a bit, and then Spalding it became very tense because Spalding gets quite clearly angry about it, and you think, oh, it's all going to kick off because we've just seen the scene where Spalding shot and killed the two thieves, but luckily it was all a joke. Everything was fine, but yeah.
It's funny though, because you say that Spalding got pissed off, but actually the only reason it ended up happening to him is because they insisted on going.
I don't think Spalding was going to kill them. No, I think he would have let them
but
go.
Spalding obviously let the Firefly family know that they were going that way, so that Baby could get out on the side of the road.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have happened if they hadn't pushed for it.
No.
So it's not like Spalding orchestrated it.
No.
Regardless, it was like, right, if you really want to go, you're going. You know.
They sealed their own fate.
You will find Dr. Satan.
They got what they were looking for.
Yeah, was there anything else particularly that is popping out to you plot-wise that you wanted to discuss? Or not really?
There isn't much. I mean, there really isn't.
No, just
Yeah.
bits, I guess. I guess the bit where Otin is wearing the skin of Denise's dad is
I always
messed up.
forget that. So
Yeah.
messed up.
I mean, anything else apart from the spectacle might be the dynamic between the family members, like of which there is a little bit. Like, you know what I mean? You get a sense of, you know, the baby and mama both really like have this weird, twisted affection for one another.
Their maniacal
for example.
giggles in each other's faces.
Yeah, you know, there's definitely a lot of that, but the plot is really light. I mean, it's if you go into this film expecting plot, you are going to be disappointed. In fact, bringing it back round to the critical response, I think that probably has a lot to do with it, because this film really doesn't have much in the way of plot at all. But it's not the point, you know what I mean? But if someone is wanting that, and some film goers, you know, I think especially some critics really do seek that in their films, and if you're looking, you know, if you do go into this film looking for plot, you are going to be disappointed. But if you do go in looking for a proper spectacle and a real, you know, a celebration of like vintage grindhouse and exploitation movies, and, you know, a twisted good time, you're gonna be quite happy. Really. You're gonna quite like it.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, so other than that, I suppose we could talk about the deaths. So we got Dwight becomes Fish Boy.
Yep.
Next death after that was...
Well, it's weird because Jerry lasts, doesn't he? He's there with them in the bunny suits at the end.
Yeah,
And
that's
then-
right.
and then I assume Denise dies.
Yeah.
Oh,
she
right,
gets brought
at the
back.
very end.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. She's on
Well,
Satan's table,
yeah.
isn't she? Dr. Satan's
For
table.
her, death is the best possible outcome
Yeah.
at that point, you know.
She
so-
could become one of the people that are in the kind of Dr. Satan's waiting room, though.
Yeah, or in the
Yeah,
mud
that looks
pit.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Or in the mud pit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
I mean, like, when they were all in the bunny suits in the coffin, obviously, not Denise, what's the other one? Mary, gets away and is just stabbed and then burnt. Almost like they were planning on that happening, which is kind of odd, but, you know, I'm going to let this film get away with pretty much anything.
Otis looks so cool during that bit as well.
He looks so good. He looks really like she does in Lords of Salem. Have you noticed that?
Yes, massively.
In fact, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same.
I would...
Yeah.
The cross on the forehead.
I would put a bet on that.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. I didn't realise that until now.
How did you guys feel about... what's it called? It's called the place where they buy the alcohol from.
Oh, Red Hot Pussy.
How do you feel about that scene? Because at the start,
I love
you feel like
it.
it's just a scene just so we get to see Sherry's bum.
Are you complaining, mate?
No, I'm not. But
Jesus.
but then it goes in there and there's a really funny exchange with Goober. But it doesn't feel like there's any point to it. But I love that scene.
Yeah, no, you're right. There is
because Goober's so happy to see them, and they're so happy.
Apart from maybe to establish that they don't just go around killing every single person they lay eyes on. They've actually in some way part of the wider community. Which
that is quite literally, I think,
baffling.
maybe the only thing that adds anything to that to the plot. Really, is the fact that they do have, it's anybody who isn't within their little insular community who comes in, because there's the constant reference to all that, you're just city slickers who think we're a bunch of idiots who need education,
which is a really important theme in the whole thing.
Well, yeah, it does maybe play in properly to the hick stereotype of you ain't from round here, are you, and all that, but I think it does play into particularly quite an old American fear. I think, not necessarily entirely American, but obviously it manifests itself in that way with them being.
It's always associated with.
Yeah. But it like that scene. I like that scene in particular. It really adds to the sleaze levels.
Oh god, yeah.
Completely.
And the fun levels. It's just for fun.
Well, yeah, I mean,
like the rest of the film.
To me, in this film, sleaze and fun walk hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
The fun in this film is in how grimy and sleazy and kind of sexy in a like neon lit kind of a way it all is. You know what I mean?
In a seedy
way. This film is proper seedy. I mean, like fully, but not in a way, not to the point where it becomes off-putting and a bit gross. It's just a bit like, it's just a bit, this is a bit saucy. But
a bit saucy.
But maybe, even those bits with the old film that we used, I don't want to try and hazard a guess at what type of old film it is, because I don't know for sure, but the little flashes of
we were
images
thinking 16mm,
something
but we
along those
can't
lines,
be sure.
yeah. Well, we said like the Sinister Tapes film, yes, that sort of thing. Like the old sort of porn movies and things like that. It's just, it just works. It works really, really well.
Yeah, I did like the little cutaways in between scenes.
Just fun.
It's a lot of fun.
The one talking about, what was it, the skunk ape. Did you catch that?
Oh yeah.
No.
It was a couple talking about the skunk ape that like
came into their house and assaulted me and my husband.
It looked like
yeah. What the hell was that?
I don't know, but I love it.
I forgot about that because it's such a non sequitur.
But it's basically Bigfoot, isn't it? They show a picture and it's
but it's like, you sold him. What the hell, man?
It just feels like it's just It's
if it wasn't for the fact that I've read that Rob Zombie doesn't drink or do drugs, I would think that he was drinking and doing drugs while directing that scene.
Last album.
Yeah. Good grief.
Yeah. Why don't we do the last bit of the competition, Rob? That'd be fun.
I think we should.
Yeah.
And then we can top it off with some fun facts.
Fun facts.
Okay.
Yeah, we like fun facts.
So this competition is the profit and loss segment of the. Let's get down to business.
Drums, so we don't have music.
Yeah, we're gonna. We'll be able to afford it one day.
I know a fact. I don't know the actual how much it cost or what it made, but I know a fact which may put me at an unfair advantage.
Okay.
Well, let's see, because if you win, then I might.
If you get 1
point,
you win this, Manny.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna go for what was the budget of this movie?
Oh, I was so wondering this.
Yeah, this is.
Ruby can go first on this one.
I mean, he's a first-time director.
But he has got all of his music influence.
That's true. That's very true. He had some money behind him, right?
Yeah.
It's not a tiny cast.
No.
And some of them wouldn't have been getting paid peanuts. I would have assumed.
Some of it looks cheap and some of it really doesn't.
Exactly.
Like certain scenes look grainy as anything.
It's one of those that you could tell me it was made on 500 quid and I might believe you.
And then you could tell me
and you could tell me it was 5 million and I might believe you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that's really
yeah.
tough. I'm gonna go in between those. I'm gonna say 3 million.
Okay. Manny?
I bet I'm so low.
Right.
I bet.
The fact that I know has to do with how much it made. I don't know. I'm not sure about the budget. So you're saying 3 million. Like I said, certain elements. Sometimes this film looks really cheap, and sometimes it like the part towards the end with the professor and all of that set design.
That can't have been cheap.
Yeah, that doesn't look like something that was built by a
Gloop that
bunch
comes
of
out his
amateurs.
face, it must have cost a few quid.
Yeah, exactly. Man,
There's a few bob right there.
It is. A few pans.
oh man, I'm gonna go for 5 million.
Okay, well, we have a winner. Manny won. So luckily, the next one
Really?
doesn't matter. Yeah, it was 7 million.
7 okay.
7
I
million.
said,
I know.
Yeah,
I'll tell you your prize
Make
after we've gone through the
out.
next thing.
okay.
Okay, so what did it make at box office?
Now,
do you know this?
I don't know, but I will share the fact with everyone so we're on equal playing field, right? The film got a sequel, right?
What?
The film got a sequel. A film like this, I don't think would have got.
Oh,
the
you
sequel.
mean Devil's Rejects?
Yeah, it
Right.
got a sequel.
I was like,
I don't
House
think,
of a Thousand
I know,
Corpses
I know.
House of
that is
1001
I know.
It's late.
I know. I know it may have sounded like I was building up to some proper inside information, but I did read that Universal approached Rob Zombie directly afterwards to ask him if he wanted to make The Devil's Rejects because the film was successful, right? So the film was not a flop, right? So so the film would have made then at minimum double the budget, which means it made at least 14 million, right? So I'm going to go right ahead and say I reckon this film made about 25 million.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just a slightly educated guess.
62 million. Because that's what it deserves on opening night.
It made 16.8 million.
Fucking hell.
16.
So Manny wins again. Okay, your prize is
16.8.
16 at box office. That's pretty good.
What was
See,
it
for a horror
for?
film back in those days. So
What
your
do you- what do
your
you-
What do I win?
your prize is that I have purchased the movie we're going to be watching next episode. We can talk about at the end, but I haven't taken the cellophane off. That's your job, mate.
Yes!
Yes, nice
I hope
job.
there's some bubble wrap inside.
There isn't.
I don't know.
You
but
do not buy DVDs often, do you?
No, I don't. But I'd love to pop some bloody bubble wrap.
Or you get to pull open cellophane.
Oh, it's so satisfying. Can I smell the inside?
Yeah, you get first.
You
whiff.
can, and you can also tell the audience what that film's going to be if you want right now.
What? Oh, I just remembered. It's Hereditary.
It
You
is
do not have this
Hereditary.
kind of responsibility.
Oh, and I loved that film, and I'm so looking forward to watching it again.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yes.
so next week we are going to be doing Hereditary.
But first, because I've teased at it, would you guys at home like to hear some fun facts?
Go for
Would
it.
you like? All right. So there are several instances in the film where we see the missing posters of children, and two of those children in those pictures were Rob Zombie and his brother when they were kids.
Really?
Here's another fun little fact, which I remember reading this once, and it is just hilarious. Rob Zombie's brother is the lead singer of the band Power Man 5000.
I read that too.
Who literally sound like an Argos catalogue version of White Zombie. I feel so bad, but they literally sound like a crap version of White Zombie.
Oh, poor Rob Zombie's brother, whose name I don't know.
I know. But yeah, it was initially filmed in 2000, this film. And the film wasn't released for 3 years because it had proper troubled release schedule, because initially Universal refused to release it because they thought it would get NC-17, which it did end up getting in its initial submission to the MPAA. But then he went, because it was taking too long, he went over to MGM, and they refused to release it because, and I find this insane that they refused to release it for this reason. Rob Zombie said, oh yeah, they've got no morals for releasing this film, which to me just completely smacks of some, a director who's making an exploitation movie and is hyping up his film to be this insane, like, moralist, horrific thing. It's a long-held tradition, right? And they refused to release it because he said that. So eventually he went with Lionsgate, and I do think...
Big Big up the Lionsgate.
Yeah, big up Lionsgate. I think at this point they hadn't been a distributor for very long, because I'd read that they specifically took this because it was going to be one of the first horror films.
You can tell by their logo they haven't been around.
Yeah, very. It did. You
Old.
said it literally looked like something you'd see at the beginning of an 80s VHS, didn't it?
Yeah, not like what it looks like now, which is pretty damn cool.
The house is the same one used in the 1982 comedy musical The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas, which stars Dolly Parton.
Nice.
Funnily enough, and it was located and filmed on the Universal Studios tram ride. But Universal refused to stop the tram tours, delaying filming during many scenes, which is madness.
That's great.
I know, it's crazy. What else we got? Oh yeah, I mentioned this, right? A lot of Otis and Baby's bizarre rants during the home movie scenes are inspired by the Manson home tapes. So there's that scene where like Baby says pretty much word for word, whereas it's like, you go out and you do what needs to be done, there's no wrong. If there's people who need to be killed, you do it. It's a direct takeoff.
Yeah.
Everything else I mentioned when there was decent context in the earlier discussions.
Cool.
There you bloody
Slipped
go.
it in there
Good
very
facts
nicely.
then.
Yeah, I know. You got to keep things nice and cohesive.
Well, I think all that's really left to do is to give our ratings. Screw the critics.
Yeah, mate.
They don't know what they're talking
Yeah.
about. It's all about
What are they
we
out of,
think.
Manny, this time?
Well, oh man, we're gonna do this out of 10.
Professor Gobs.
Professor Gob.
We're gonna
I don't know what to call that.
Professor Spot
10
Gob.
cups of the professor's gloopy, sloppy
Oh,
phlegm.
it is
Yeah,
phlegm.
you've got a thing about phlegm. You don't like it, do you? For the audience at home,
Give me
Ruby's
all the
face
blood
just
I can, but no,
Yeah.
not.
Ruby's face just screwed up so hard. I think it's going to turn in on itself.
Much like his face. Okay,
completely.
I'm going to give my rating straight
Go
in
for
there
it.
with an 8.5 glob cups out of 10.
Oh.
Yeah. I was going to give it a 9, but it's the first episode.
Yeah, you don't want to be getting your things
Yeah.
too high, do you?
Okay, Manny,
Solid
what do you think?
8.5.
I'm going to give this... for personal enjoyment, it's a 9, but I'm going to bring it down to a 7.5 for the. There are a couple of serious.
That's a big old
filmmaking
drop.
errors. Yeah, but I do think there are some serious errors. But overall, my overall experience is 7.5. But I do enjoy this film immensely still.
Fair enough. I don't care what you guys say. I'm going to go straight in there with a 9. For me, it's a 9.
I think it will stay that way for you, though. You
It's-
love this film.
I love it. It's one of my all-time favourites. I just get such enjoyment out of it. Like I said, I'm smiling from start to finish. It makes me laugh so much, and it's just, like I said, it's just joyful. To me, it's just joyful.
I don't feel like any of us have mentioned the word funny enough. This film is really funny.
Yes,
It is
It's
funny.
proper funny. in
really
parts.
funny.
Yeah.
And it's just a wonderful example of what this genre could be if there were some more fearless filmmakers out there that weren't just trying to please the bigger crowds, you know, just people, geeks being geeks for other geeks, like, you know.
With a proper vision.
Exactly.
Yeah,
just enjoying themselves with their talent rather than trying to prove something, you know.
Yeah.
I just think it's quite pure in that way.
Yeah, I think it's pure as well.
Yeah, like made by a complete nerd, and it's wonderful. Like I've said before, I just feel like this film is a baptism into this genre. You know, especially if you watch it young, before you
I will
really
always
start to
recommend
get
this film.
into it. It's like
Yeah,
it is a baptism.
If
in
you're like
blood.
us and you're too young to have been alive during the actual 70s, you know what I mean? I think it would have been a
Yeah.
real gateway into
But it's
of stuff.
it's not just a complete reenactment. At the same time, it
Oh,
does its
no.
own modern thing with it. So it is individual in its own way, and I think it is wonderful.
It's
so
got-
I'm going to go
It's
for a
amazing.
9.
It's got as much flavour as Spalding's fried chicken.
Yes, perfect. Okay.
Well, that was our review of House of a Thousand Corpses by Rob Zombie. Now we got to do the fun stuff of talking about the social media.
Fun stuff.
Okay, so
Yes.
if you want to get in touch with us directly through email, we are Let's Watch Horror, all one word, lowercase, at gmail.com. Our Instagram is Let's Watch Horror Pod. Our Twitter is @WatchHorrorPod, and you could subscribe to us on Podbean, but also we're going to be on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and hopefully anywhere you get your podcast from, including YouTube. So that is that bit wrapped up. Thank you very much for listening for this week's edition of the Let's Watch Horror podcast, episode 1. We will see you next week where we're going to be reviewing Hereditary.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we are. And we're going to be watching that in Blu-ray quality.
You looking forward to undo the cellophane?
Oh,
Very
my
exciting.
God, I'm going to absolutely cream.
Oh, man.
Beautiful image there. And can I just say one final thank you to my wonderful brother Tommy for creating our artwork, our new logo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, bro.
Honestly, thanks, mate. It looks boss.
We just put it on the Podbean website and it looks so good.
Yeah, we hope you guys like it too.
Yes.
Cool. So hopefully we will see you next week.
Talk to you next week.
In
Goodbye,
a
everyone.
bit.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Watch Hereditary if you don't want it spoiled.
Yeah, it's true. Many spoilers. Bye.